This is First GenXers.
All right. What's up, y'all? What's up? It's me, the one and only Dark Lord 100, aka Double KK Double. And unfortunately, due to sickness, I will be flying solo tonight on the classroom. And we're just going to blaze through a couple of these subjects. I'm going to give you my thoughts on them. And then we'll get you out of here and on to the Saint tonight with a little now versus then or now versus then fusion with some video games. So let's first open up with saying you can find us on Facebook.com. Just search for The Classroom and like and follow, and you'll get all the news about the shows, sometimes before the shows even go on. All right. And so this week we are going to open up with unfortunately, this time it will not be with O'Malley and Suave. That will be for next week. But this week, we've got NFL offseason news. And we open up with a little bit of the coaching carousel. 10 teams have hired new head coaches this cycle. John Harbaugh to the Giants, Mike McCarthy to the Steelers, and Robert Saleh to the – what? No, that's wrong. Robert Saleh to the Tennessee Titans. He said Robert Saleh to the Jets. I'm like, no, that was the year before. This year, it was Saleh to the Titans after a year back with the 49ers, making magic with them young bucks over there. He was eventually replaced by Raheem Morris from Atlanta. He had gotten let go and replaced by Kevin Stefanski for the head coaching position there. But he comes back to take over this young defense that'll be returning Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. But Saleh moves on to Tennessee. I believe he took the 49ers passing game coordinator with him as his new offensive coordinator out there in Tennessee. They got a good young quarterback in Cam Ward, some decent receivers, a defense that Saleh can work with and can bring the talent out of, and I expect them to do well. I don't expect them to make the playoffs or end up in the Super Bowl next year, but but don't be surprised if you see the Titans near the top of the AFC South in the coming years. I think Saleh learned from what his issues were in New York, and I think he's got himself a good young quarterback to start with Cam Ward. And so he has something to build off of. I would have loved to see what could have happened if Mike Vrabel would have stayed with Tennessee instead of ending up in New England, because he took New England to the Super Bowl. And you give him a young quarterback like Cam Ward and a defense that he could do what he does with, you never know. That could have been Tennessee in that championship game or in that Super Bowl. I think Harbaugh to the Jets or to the Giants is not going to be necessarily huge, but I think it will turn some things around. And here's what I mean by that. He did pretty well coaching a player like Lamar Jackson. Lamar would average like 200-300 yards a game passing, another like 80 to 100 yards on the ground. He's got a cat in Jackson Dart who can put up similar numbers. So doesn't mean that he will. It all depends on who he brings in as offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, etc. They have a lot of young studs on defense, including that defensive tackle that they drafted, or not defensive, but defensive end that they just drafted a couple of years ago. And they have Cam Scatterbo, Like people are like, oh, he didn't really do much. He got hurt. Yeah, he got hurt. That's the key thing about it. He was doing a lot before he got hurt. Same thing with Jackson Dart. They were both doing a lot before they got hurt. But I think the Scatterboo is going to be key because Scatterboo gives him something that he didn't have in Baltimore, and that is a speed back. Like they had some people like Justice Hill, etc., who could fit the role, but Derrick Henry was the main back in uh, in Baltimore. You can tell that by the fact that basically John Harbaugh lost his job because he didn't run Derrick Henry a couple of times when he really should have to maintain a lead or to try to secure a win. So I don't think he'll make that mistake with Scatterboo. Scatterboo is a very McCaffrey-like running back, and so I can see him contributing heavily to that Giants offense. And as far as McCarthy with the Steelers, I don't really think that McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers is going to work. Even though they have a lot of studs on that team, like Fairmouth is still there. They still have DK Metcalf. They still got TJ Watt on the defensive side of the ball. Like, I don't know. One quick thing to talk about is a rumor that I've heard a couple of different times about Joey Bosa potentially coming to San Francisco to anchor the other side of the line or anchor the D tackle position with the 49ers. I would love to see it, but I won't believe it until I see it. Like, don't get me wrong. I would love to see a D line with Mikael Williams coming up the middle with Alfred Collins, and then Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa on either side, and then Fred Warner and Tatum Betham. Like he showed, man. He showed when in stepping in for Fred Warner that he can be a good number two to Warner when Warner comes back healthy. And that's going to be a tough. If they do that, if they pull that off, even with Bryce Huff, if they go with him instead of Joey Bosa, like it's going to be a tough team to run against as long as everybody stays healthy. Morris is a little bit more inventive with his play calling. So I think that maybe some of those issues that we saw when I got very frustrated with the 49ers in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, when they would continue running zone, when they had the manpower, the players that are good enough to play man up with Kansas City, and they just didn't. Speaking of Kansas City, we also have retirement watch here, as Adam Thielen and CJ Ham have both already announced their retirements from the sport of football. Thielen, y'all remember him from his days in Minnesota, and then he actually had a solid run early on in Carolina before he ended up getting traded back to Minnesota, and he has chosen to retire. But Travis Kelce is the interesting name that's being floated out there. I say it's interesting because if the Chiefs lose Kelce, don't get me wrong, Noah Gray is a good backup. I don't know if he's ready to take the role that Kelce had for that offense. Just like with the 49ers, I don't know who they really have that they're going to be able to replace George Kittle when he retires with, because he's just Luke Farrell is a very similar type of back or tight end, and maybe they can find somebody in this year's draft that Kittle can start grooming. But when Kittle grows, it's going to be hard pressed to replace him. And I think that Kansas City is in a similar spot when it comes to Travis Kelce. I don't think they have anybody that's ready to fully take over being Patrick Mahomes' favorite target. There is talk of them potentially bringing back in the free agency. There is talk of them bringing back potentially Tyreek Hill. Now that he's a free agent, just like there's talk of the 49ers bringing back Deebo Samuel. From a reliability standpoint, I get it. You know, you want to please your quarterback with some of their favorite targets out on the field. And even though Deebo doesn't necessarily have the yak speed that he used to a few years back, I think that he could contribute with being kind of a possession receiver to Ricky Pearsall's more outside style of play. And or deep ball type of play. I think Devo could very much. I don't think you use him as a running back though. No, you get yourself another couple of young running backs. They had a couple of studs there this year, but yeah, you depend on that. You depend on the young studs you bring in to spell Cap McCaffrey, and then you rely on George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Ricky Pearsall. And I think that combination of three could keep that Niners offense moving. Just like but I don't necessarily feel that Tyreek Hill is going to have that same effect in Kansas City, because I don't believe that Tyreek is the same Tyreek that he's been, his whole career. Like, and the last time he was in Kansas City when he was tearing up people, and it was like Mahomes to him was like the most dangerous combination in the NFL at the time, and some would say in NFL history. But I don't think that's the Tyreek Hill that we've got now. So now the last subject on the NFL note is and like I said, this is going to be a very brief episode because we're kind of flying through these discussions. It's trade rumors. Stars like Kyler Murray and AJ Brown are expected to be traded from their teams because they're either not happy or the team is in a rebuilding phase. But there's a big name out there in Max Crosby that people are saying should be done. I don't think that's the right move. I think Crosby wants to stay in Las Vegas, and Crosby is a hell of a talent. I think that if you look at his numbers compared to Nick Bosa's, they were both drafted, I believe, in the same draft class, and they're very similar. So he's been a dominant force for the Raiders. So I don't see a reason to let somebody that's young enough that you can build your defense around him over the next couple of years go. I think it would be a silly mistake for Clint Kubiak and whoever the new GM is in Las Vegas to trade Crosby, just like it would be stupid of them not to take Fernando Mendoza with the number 1 pick. Like, that's a generational quarterback. Now you got your generational edge rusher, you got your generational cornerback. Now what you need is in the 4th or 5th round to find an almost generational like linebacker to complement that edge rusher. And you'll have the same exact formula that has sent the 49ers to multiple Super Bowls and like 6 NFC championship games in the past 8 years. But if they do trade him, I don't know if San Francisco may be willing to give up whatever it takes. A couple first-round draft picks, a couple second-round, third-round draft picks to bring him over. If they can't get Bosa, they bring in Crosby. Crosby can teach them young studs how, and Nick Bosa and him can go to work. But I don't know. I don't necessarily see the Niners trade doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons is because they're not, even though they're going to end up with a lot of money after the salary cap goes up, they're not going to end up with as much as other teams. The top 3 space leaders after the projected salary cap increase to 301 to 305 million per team would be the Tennessee Titans. So Robert Saleh would have 99 million in cap room. Tennessee could bring in some studs with that. Las Vegas would be right behind them with 87 million. And then the Chargers would be behind them, Jim Harbaugh and them boys over there, with another 87.2 million. So the 49ers, as far as I know, are going to be in somewhere in the 40-45 range of cap room. And that's with Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, and George Kittle, Nick Bosa all wrapped up for the next couple of years. So, like, we'll see. They said they're definitely going to be a little bit more free-flowing in free agency. The Chiefs are going to struggle unless I believe that they've reworked Mahomes' contract to get them under the cap. But it means he's going to be making something like 65-70 million next year. But the Minnesota Vikings as well are 40 million over the cap, and among teams significantly over the cap. These teams are teams that are probably not going to be making big time moves come free agency. But in general, the NFL has been a crazy place and is going to continue to be a crazy place for the upcoming months as we see movement happen with teams, rosters, and players. So other than that, let's take a quick 5-minute break. Like I said, this is going to be a real quick show. We're going to talk a little basketball after the break. But this is Dark Lord 100, aka Double KK Double, and you are listening or watching the Classroom here. First GenXers Presents the Classroom here on the First GenXers Broadcast Network, along with or on the First GenXers Twitch and YouTube, as well as the Double KK Double Network YouTube. So we'll see you guys after the break, and we'll talk some b-ball and also some Olympics. Yeah. Talk about what the men's hockey team did that hasn't been done in almost 50 years. Peace.
We back at it. Yep, we still doing it. Poetic beat. First GenXers. Gia. Let's get it, y'all. We back in the building. It's been a long time cooking in the soup kitchen. And I'm chilling with the same. Dropping these beats won't stop, nope, I can't. Let me get up in the lab, turn it up. Game on with the First GenXers. What's up? Let's flip on the Switch or the Xbox and get up in my zone, I'm clowning. Let me clear my throat for a minute. Shout out to my folks while I'm in it. It ain't nothing but love, it's baby business. I really don't know what's so who ain't feeling this. And this is only the beginning. Now versus then, this is something for the chillin'. Poetic got the joints like McDonald's. I'm loving it. It's the First Gen. We're now rocking with Poetic Beats. This is the First GenXers production. Get your PlayStations out. Get your Xbox out. Get your Switch out. Let's get it in, y'all. Holla back.
Got to keep it. You got to keep it lovely. You got to keep it. You got to keep it lovely. Success comes right after the struggle. I ain't even giving up on whatever I wanted. The tragedies I've seen, I can't even stomach. Most of y'all weak as shit and would've started running. Every time I make it back to the crib, I'm thankful the Most High let me see all of it. Grateful I'm lovely, and I've been real with this. Please don't judge me. I'ma stay on my shit.
Adam's family like dynamic between Pugsley and Wednesday. Like, very true.
Yeah.
Well, I always temper this because I think
I did not like the receiving caution tagline.
I've also seen what Chase Center looks like when the Valkyries are fucking playing, so fuck all of you. Because Chase Center is packed no matter what's going on.
They say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But the definition of beauty is distorted. Yeah. Come on. Searching for yourself, so insecure about the way you look, so you go to Miami.
All right, and I'm back. How you doing? All right, so we were talking about the NFL to start the show, and we're pretty much done with that subject for now. So now we were going ahead. Basketball talk, and so far this offseason, or this basketball, not NFL, sorry. This season so far has been rather interesting. Warriors had their debut of Chris Porzingis this week in a loss to the Celtics, who were beating the snot out of the Lakers tonight. The last time I saw that team's just on a run, even without Jason Tatum. It's pretty amazing. Boston dominated the latest chapter of their rivalry with a 111-109 or 111-89 win at Crypto Arena. Jaylen Brown with 32. Peyton Pritchard, who has just been a beast and a half. Again, he ate the Warriors alive this week when they played them. I believe it was on Tuesday or Thursday. Luka Doncic and LeBron James tried their best, but they just couldn't. The Spurs have already taken off. Like, people are considering them a legit contender to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I personally think that Victor Wembanyama is Victor Wemby, as he's better known, is going to make them a team that nobody wants to see come to playoffs. Their half-court game is going to be insane, and the fact that man can hit threes will always surprise the living hell out of me. But let's see. The All-Star game was this past weekend. And let me tell you this. It had a pretty good review, I would say, but it was a interesting way to do things. We talked about this before. Both Saint and O'Malley are not impressed with the All-Star game format or what they're doing with it to try to change it and make it more interesting. And I don't blame them, because it wasn't even really worth watching this year. The games were all right, but in general, it really wasn't worth watching. Let's see. James Harden has had a great impact over in Cleveland. I think he's averaging something like 25 a game, playing his game for a contender in the East. The last time he did this was when they traded him to Philly, and he played in Philly for a little bit as their number one guy. Couldn't really get them out of the second round, really, pairing with Joel Embiid. And so now he's going to go to Cleveland and work with all them young studs, and hopefully they will be able to go somewhere. Maybe James Harden can be the one to take Cleveland into a place it hasn't been since LeBron James was there, and that's the Eastern Conference Finals, and help them get to an NBA Finals and compete for that with potentially the Oklahoma City Thunder. But I think, unfortunately for James Harden and the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think the Thunder would just run them out the building. The Knicks managed to pull off a massive comeback against the Rockets, being down 18 in the fourth, and having Jalen Brunson help lead them to victory. The Knicks are a very up and down team. Like, one week you could get a Knicks team that's ready to win an NBA championship, or at least they look like that. And the next week you're going to get a team that you don't even think deserves the 8th seed. And that's just, it's the same kind of frustration and consistency with the Warriors. One week you're going to get a Warriors team one day you're going to get a Warriors team like you did today, the team that just beat the Nuggets by like 11 and just kind of owned them for most of the game while being down like Steph, and I believe Chris Porzingis only played limited minutes, no Jimmy Butler, and they were able to do that. But then the next game they'll go against the Charlotte Hornets and lose by 13. it doesn't make sense. But the Knicks are at least doing better overall. They're like top 4 in the Eastern Conference, and I think that they should be able to make some noise and at least get out the first round in the playoffs. Golden State used a 21 three-pointer barrage to overcome a triple-double from Nikola Jokic and beat Denver 128-17. That was earlier today. Steph Curry's injury is said to be day-to-day, so they're going to kind of see where they're at as they move forward. I don't know what to say because, like, I trust the Warriors medical staff enough that if Steph was ready to go, if Steph could go, he would be out on the floor. But it sucks because we kind of needed him back and Kristaps back after the All-Star break. No Jimmy means it's just going to be a tough road. I hope everybody can stay together next year and they keep Kristaps and everybody else for next year, and then they can run it back with Jimmy. And I think that team will be pretty solid. But other than that, I don't necessarily see this team competing for a championship this year or competing for. They might be able to make a run like they did last year and get out of the first round and into the second round, potentially into the conference championships if Steph stays healthy. With Steph, Draymond, Porzingis, and Horford, yeah, I think that team can get to at least the second round, potentially the Western Conference championship. But that's a big if. That's a big if. It's under a team that I think is to beat coming out of the West in general. I don't think you're going to find many teams that are really going to challenge them outside of the Spurs. The Pistons are young, but I just think if confronted with something like an Oklahoma City, I think that Pistons team would struggle. In a 7-game series, I think the Pistons team would struggle, and I don't think that they would come out on top there at all. But the Celtics might. The Celtics can probably give the Thunder a run for their money. The Knicks, no. The Cavs, probably. They could give the Thunder a run for their money, but and the Raptors, no. But the Thunder, I think, as long as they can pass the test that is the San Antonio Spurs, then I think that there's not really anybody else who can stop them. Not even LeBron James and Luka. I think they would get owned if they came across the Thunder in a 7-game series in the playoffs. The Thunder are just that good. They are what Golden State was during their run with KD. They're just unstoppable, so to speak. But all right, we talked to trade deadline, Wemby versus the field. We talked that. This season for the Sacramento Kings has just been hellish. From everybody from Zach LaVine to trading some of their key players to Sabonis getting hurt and having to go out with an injury for the rest of the season, and like I said, LaVine going out. This is just a lost season. Like, a lot of people are trying to write the Warriors off because Steph Curry's been out for so long, but he will eventually come back and hopefully help them make a push. They're sitting in the 8th seed right now, but this Sacramento team, I just feel bad for them because it was like literally for a week straight. Every day I turn on the TV and see some kind of ticker notification saying that another Sacramento Kings player was going to be having season-ending surgery. I did see a joke where it showed a picture of the beam, the picture of the beam for the Kings, and it said the tweet was from the beam itself, and it was like, "It's been a nice ride, Sacramento." And it said it changed his LinkedIn profile, and it said he was open to work, looking for work someplace else. So I was just like, that's so wrong. That's so wrong. But that's where we're at right now with the Kings. They hopefully will get better next year, but this year, let's just call it a wrap. All right, so let's see. The Winter Olympics took place this week. And I want to say the biggest story, hold on. We're jumping into a new segment. So all right. The men's hockey team, USA and Team Canada played today. And let me see what the results were. I know the USA won, but I got to see what the score is. Let's see. Yep, the United States wins gold. They win the gold over Canada in the men's hockey tournament. They won it 2-1, and it was a huge event because of the fact that this is the first time in over 40 something years that the U.S. has won gold in hockey. Like, we're talking about dating back to the days just before or after the Miracle on Ice when they beat Russia. Except this was Canada. Canada was the new Russia, not because they're bad people, but because they dominated international hockey for a very long time. Team Canada has for a very long time, and it's been shown the last couple of years in the All-Star break games that they play. And Team Canada has a tendency, the World's Cup or whatever it is, Team Canada has a tendency to come out on top. And Team USA is definitely their biggest rival. Well, that rivalry was renewed today in the Winter Olympics, and the USA happened to come out on top, winning the gold medal and handing Canada silver for the first time in a long time. Let's see. Figure skating, American Elisa Liu delivered a standout performance in the women's short program, keeping the U.S. in medal contention against a strong Japanese field. Norwegian cross-country skier Johannes Hoslov Klabo became the most decorated Winter Olympian of all time during the day 9 of the games. Wow. So that was the Olympics. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is that, guess what? Time has flown so quickly that we are back to it's time for spring training. Pitchers and catchers are reporting. The Baltimore Orioles defeated the New York Yankees 2-0 in the Grapefruit League opener. And in the Cactus League, the Chicago White Sox beat the Cubs 8-1. Munetaka Murakami made a comfortable debut in the Cactus League while Pete Alonso homered in his first spring appearance for the Orioles. Twins ace Pablo Lopez is set for season-ending Tommy John surgery. Meanwhile, Yuki Matsui suffered a groin injury, putting his status for the upcoming World Baseball Classic starting on March 6th in doubt. Tony Clark resigned as the head of the MLB Players Association following an internal inquiry, with Bruce Mayer named as the interim executive director. So those are the highlights of this week with baseball and with the Olympics closing out. I believe USA finished first or second in medals. They always, when it comes to sports, they always finish top 5 in medals. May not have had all the golds, but they got enough of them. So we'll have the Summer Olympics coming up in 2028 is the next Olympics after this one. So, all right. So that will do it for me here. This will be the last time you'll see this look from either the classroom or Cheap Pop. We're changing the look next week. So be sure to check us out, and be sure to continue checking out the YouTube page. It's that subscribe button if you're a new watcher, and as well on Twitch, hit that follow button. And join me next week where we'll be talking more basketball, baseball, and football. This has been a short edition of the classroom featuring Dark Lord 100, aka Double KK Double. Hopefully next week we'll be back with Swab and O'Malley, and we'll get to talk some more sports fun. All right, y'all. So that'll do it for me. Y'all have a great night. We out. Peace.
Bye.